What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop, and thank you for joining in another episode of Repair Pal. Today we have a 2013 Subaru Outback 2.5 liter CVT automatic transmission service for you. We're going to go through, change the oil, look at the filters, make sure the CVT fluid is looking good, and get this back on the road. So first things first, we're going to warm up the car, bring it up to operating temperature, and get that oil out. Here's a little tip for you. I like to write the drain plug size on the oil pan and under hood, so that way you know what size wrench you need before you crawl under the vehicle, or if you have a lift, it just saves you a trip back and forth to the toolbox. So this is a 17, and it should be the same for several years before and after this 2013 model. So we're going to let everything drain out, and then we're going to put the plug back in, wipe it down, make sure it's nice and clean, and move on to the CVT, which is a 14 millimeter. Now it's very tricky. Want to break it loose and unthread it slightly by hand, and we're going to pop that drain plug down just a tiniest little bit to get out a sample of fluid. We don't want to drain anything out of here. This fluid is very expensive. If you do a service, we will have a video about that coming up very soon. So bring that down, get a sample, put it back, and then inspect it. Look at your fingers, smell it one time, make sure it's not burnt or there's any particles in there. Black flakes and chunks is a sure sign that we're burning up some of that CVT belt and friction material. We don't want anything in there that's going to be more harmful or damaging to the transmission. This one looks pretty good. It smells okay, but we're going to get that service on here very, very soon. So let's grab our 14, give this a quick snug. We don't need to go too tight. Gorillas are not for working on cars. Wipe everything down, make sure it looks better than when you got here. Let's get the car down real quick. Grab the oil filter off of there. You should be able to get that off by hand. If not, you can grab a set of these pliers. Link in the description below if you want a set for yourself. They're very handy. I like them for all different sizes and shapes of vehicles. One thing that's really nice about this Subaru 2.5 liter is that there's a little catch basin there for all the old oil. You can wipe that up before it goes any farther. Make sure that you're not making too much of a mess. Use a clean rag. Don't put any more debris down here where it goes, because eventually this is going to wind up in the new filter or right back into the engine again. So after we've cleaned all of that up, we're going to go ahead and label our new oil filter with the date and the current mileage. And I like to do this so that we know and we can communicate to anyone else that may be working on this vehicle exactly what is going on. Now, there's some contest if you should write the service that it is due or if you should write the mileage that it was done at. I like to say, and it seems pretty standardized with all of the lube places in the United States, that you write down the mileage that the vehicle was serviced and then you put when it is due inside of the windshield for the driver. So here we are putting the new filter on. You see, I like to run genuine Subaru only oil filters, and I believe that that helps any issues down the road should you have an engine warranty fault or failure or any problems whatsoever where it needs to get serviced at the dealer. They're going to be a lot happier that you've been running their own branded filters and not some aftermarket stuff where they could potentially place blame of fault reason why the engine may be having an issue. Make sure that you take a light drop of oil, put a little bit on the O-ring and a little bit on the threads to help spin everything together. We run Mobile One on this car, and it's been that way since the very first oil change, and we make sure that everything inside of this particular formula is going to meet or beat the factory OE recommendation. If you count or you write on the actual oil fill cap, you'll see that that's where I put the wrench size and the capacity. So it's 5.19 quarts with an oil filter, and you'll see that we did use just a little bit smidge over that based upon what the bottle says. So we're going to fire the car up now and take a quick look at the oil pressure light, which is directly below the tachometer. It is a red oil can. You'll see that once I fire up the vehicle, it goes out very, very quickly, and that's exactly what we want to see. As you can tell here, we've got a yellow or amber colored low oil light, and we're going to scroll through real quick and notice that that is exactly what it needs. It is still just a smidge low, so we're going to top that off, and we did end up just over 5.19 quarts. Make sure that when you turn the vehicle off, you give it a few minutes for all the fluid to drain back down on the block. Want to make sure that that dipstick reading is very accurate. So moving on, we're going to check the air filter, and as you can see here, the pre-filter is removable, and it looks like it's in pretty good condition. There's two clips, One thing that you want to watch out for, if there is any debris in the container, blow that out real quick with some shop air, or if you can breath it, just go ahead and use yourself. The post filter inside of this thing is actually integrated into the airbox housing and rarely requires any service whatsoever if you take care of your pre-filter. There's a small hook at the bottom of this case. Make sure that that is captured and your two quick disconnect latches will snap right down. Make sure that you give it a quick tug. Make sure everything is good to go. One of the last steps here, if you have window stickers, that's great. You can get them at most of your parts stores. I find that using a Forney paint marker works very well. A little bit of brake cleaner on a rag to remove the old actual mileage, and then we're going to update that and we're going to set it forward 6,000 miles. The book recommends for normal service 7,500, severe service 5,000. I'm trying my best to split the difference and give myself a little bit of leeway here. Proactive is better than reactive. And if you didn't know, LOF stands for lube oil filter. That's how most dealers and service shops communicate of regular oil change maintenance. Thank you very much for watching. This wraps up today's Repair Pal. If you've liked or learned anything from this video, please give me a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment if you have any questions. As you can see here, we're pulling this vehicle out, bringing in the very next one, and we have some leaky oil cooler problems with this particular BMW Mini. Video coming up on this in the very near future.